I want everyone to listen carefully to this video. It's about 8 minutes. I listened to this young lady speak in Las Vegas at an Imago Dei Image of God conference. I have never forgotten this testimony, and I want you to remember this, and we want to make it available. She's given permission. We invited her here, but she's too scared to talk to a whole group of men. Please play the video.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Angela. I am 3 of 4 siblings to a single mother. I grew up in Hawaii, where I've come to realize having traveled to other places in the world is really uncomparable, except that it has some of the most anti-family values evidenced in their laws. Growing up with an absentee father, I didn't know what a family structure as God intended looked like. I grappled with rejection from my father for many years, and I filled the gaping hole it left with my version of what I thought a healthy relationship was, which led me to become a statistic. I missed 3 cycles, and I started to feel a hard lump in my lower abdomen. And the smell of fabric softener made me sick. And I finally decided that I needed to go to get some health care. I was 15. I went to this clinic where my mom brought us for our wellness checks on a regular basis. I remember that clinic, it had areas where there were a lot of pregnant women or infants, and a section where they would give families some resources. I actually looked up this clinic this past week, and it's still there. They pride themselves on a sliding fee scale for families that were in the lower income. So that was where I went. That was the only place I knew to go. I walked in there with the intention of getting help. And the nurse that would typically do our intake and bring us into triage was the one that checked me in. So I felt very safe and very relieved that I knew her. She was pregnant, by the way. So I trusted her presence. When she walked back into the room to tell me the results of my pregnancy test, which I already knew, there was no asking of whether I had any support at home. There was no counsel provided me. There were no other options or resources that were given to me. All I got from her was a sense of urgency to make a decision to terminate because of how far along she calculated me to be based on my last cycle. She knew my mom and really didn't give me a hopeful prognosis. She knew my mom was a single parent and that we were already struggling financially. Excuse me. She sold me. She sold me on that my mom didn't have to know. That was her appeal. I thought I was happy to know that my mom didn't have to know. She didn't even give me a day to think about it. I never left that clinic without making a decision. I remember her just giving me the time to think in the room before she came back in. I was quickly referred to a series of appointments, beginning with an ultrasound to measure the baby. And to my disappointment, I found that I wasn't allowed to see the monitor. I was sent to a medical arts building where they did the procedure you watched. Now I know the word of those things. It's that laminaria sticks. Learned it just now. It was a procedure, they said, that would prepare me for the actual procedure the next day. I didn't even know what that appointment was going to entail until it was done. It was during that appointment that I felt that there was no going back. I secretly thought I could change my mind. I actually passed out before walking out of the doors because I was so scared and so regretful of what I did. Driving to the hospital early the next morning was the worst feeling in the world. I needed to keep my mind occupied with something other than what I was about to do. I woke up in the recovery room in Queens Hospital in Hawaii, staring at a cross hanging on the wall in front of me. I remember the first thing I did was to place my hands on my lower abdomen to feel that the lump was no longer there. I cried as fast as I could before anyone could see me. And I just kept repeating the words, "I'm sorry." I don't even remember the doctor coming in to check up on me. I never had a follow-up appointment or a debrief of how the procedure went, what to expect, or even given aftercare instructions. They never even told me that I would begin to lactate a few days later because my body thought I had given birth, and that lasted a few days. So after my body went back to normal, I buried it, never to speak of it again. And for the next 24 years, I kept the grief hidden, only allowing myself to cry in the privacy of my car, in the shower, or when my family is asleep. Although I got saved in my early 20s, I continued to live with this grief, believing that I am forgiven, but never fully recovering from the trauma of the procedure and the loneliness of bearing this pain secretly, and most importantly, the tremendous loss of a life that I still yearn to know. Fast forward to a couple of years ago, during women's conference at Calvary Red Rock in the old building, Miss Vicky announced the ministry for post-abortive women, and it was like Pandora's box being reopened for me. It was the first time in over 20 years that I was able to truly speak about this, to truly process this. But this time, through the lens of God's word, truth be told, it's a testament of how far I've come to be able to stand here in front of you all today to share this traumatic experience that has caused decades of unresolved pain in my life. The sadness and feeling of loss is still very much here. Every Christmas, every year that passed, my child would be 27 years old this year. And I never got to know him or her. I have two kids. I have a 16-year-old and a 6-year-old. They bring me so much joy. I can't even imagine what I forfeited. It was only a couple years ago that I told my mom. I'm 42 years old. You can do the math. I just told my mom. The first thing she said to me was, "What if something happened to you?" And as a mother myself, it angers me to think of all these adult professionals in the healthcare industry that would allow a 15-year-old girl to make this kind of permanent decision based on the level of maturity that I didn't have. I had no advocate for me. I thought that they were doing me a favor. My mom would have never allowed me to go through with this. I was already past my first trimester. If you asked me 27 years ago if I ever thought God would give me a platform such as this to be able to glorify Him in what I believe to be the most horrific thing someone can do to a helpless living being, I would have thought you were on something. But here I am, 27 years later. It doesn't go away. It doesn't just go away. But God is just, and God will bring justice to those that are pushing these types of policies that allow children to make permanent decisions on temporary situations. So I just want to thank you all for lending your ear. I want to Thank you, Miss Vicky, for allowing me to share my story and for giving me an opportunity to give tribute to the child that I never knew, but who God has promised me the hope to one day meet. So thank you.